The raid by the ICE forces of the United States in the state of Mississippi, mass arresting roughly 700 workers in 7 poultry processing plants, some of which were owned by the Koch food business, owned by the Koch brothers, who are infamous in the United States. I want to talk about what that mass arrest was about, because it was not about law enforcement. It was about terrorism and electioneering, public relations of a very dangerous sort. And the fact that it came within a few days of an individual practicing mass terrorism on the people in a Walmart in El Paso, Texas, should have suggested to many people what I'm now trying to put into words. If there are indeed 700 people working in one of the worst industries in the United States, the people who process poultry are the people who usually work in awful conditions, earning the very bottom of the pay scale, and basically killing, gutting, and removing the feathers of poultry for the rest of us to eat. Let's suppose that 700 of them may have been, as the government assumed, illegal or undocumented immigrants, which is a violation of the law, rather like driving too fast in a zone on the highway. In the latter case, you get a ticket. What could have been done for those 700 people, 800 people, would have been to give them a ticket, to go to their home and give them a ticket requiring them to show up in court and to demonstrate that they are legal, to provide the documents if the government has a serious reason to believe that they don't. Just like the government can compel you to go to court to prove that you weren't in fact speeding when they have a reasonable supposition that you were. If they had done that, each of these people, in the privacy of their home or on their way to and from work, would have received a ticket from an officer. They would have been therefore able to arrange their affairs to be in court at the requisite time. They could have taken care of their children so that they would be looked after, rather than be confronted when they come home from school with parents that are they don't know where. Those children are innocent. They don't deserve this treatment. No one is threatened by their parents being given a ticket rather than rounded up by uniformed officers. If they didn't show up in court, that would be itself a violation of the law, something which an undocumented immigrant would be the last one to risk, since it basically means immediate deportation. So it could have been solved in a humane, appropriate way. Why was the law not enforced that way? Well, there are 2 reasons. 1, this is not about law enforcement. This is about the Trump administration producing theater for its base to win voters by a big dramatic act against the scapegoated immigrant. It is an act designed to terrorize immigrants. There's no other word for it. It's not law enforcement. That could have and should have been done the way laws are normally enforced against people threatening no one with immediate harm. So this was done partly for the Trump administration's public relations terrorism program directed at whom? The poorest of the poor. The second reason this was done was to send a reassuring message to all employers. If you employ undocumented immigrants, we will not punish you. We will punish them. How convenient. Why? Because employers like immigrants. Immigrants will do work that native people, Americans, will shy away from, like poultry processing. And immigrants will do it for less money than American natives would likely demand. Even better for employees are undocumented or illegal immigrants, because those people you can pay even less to. You can forget to pay them 1 week. You can underpay them the next week. You know why? Because they can't go to the authorities and complain because they're not documented immigrants. And of course, the employer has the paper that the undocumented immigrant may have shown, as if the employer didn't know the papers could be and often are fraudulent. That's fine with the employer, because having a record of the paper exonerates the employer and keeps him or her from arrest. They can exploit those workers, which they do mercilessly, and not worry that they will be bothered by the police, which is exactly the theater that the Trump administration performed, arresting all those people, sacrificing their personal lives, their children, and all sorts of others for the terrorism and public relations of Mr. Trump's re-election campaign. The only proper response to that event was, shame on you. This is Richard Wolff for Democracy at Work.